Idaho's News Channel 7. This is Viewpoint.
A good morning to you, and thanks for stopping by for Viewpoint, only here on Idaho's News Channel 7. I'm Joe Paris, and I'm excited to introduce you to our guest this week in just a moment. The topic, doing good for the community. Idaho Gives kicks off on Monday. Special program from the Idaho Nonprofit Center to bring the state of Idaho together. Organic campaigns for great groups all across the state, and an opportunity for you, the people of Idaho, to see how your giving impacts the causes that you care about most. And our guest this week is Kevin Bailey, the CEO of the Idaho Nonprofit Center. Kevin, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I think a great place to start would be, what is the Idaho Nonprofit Center?
Yeah, so we're a statewide nonprofit that really supports and strengthens the rest of the nonprofit sector. So whether it's providing training to other nonprofits, both big and large, advocacy, convening, educating on various topics, we're kind of the voice of the sector, and Idaho Gives is a piece of that. So it's that special week for us where we get to lift up the great work of the hundreds of nonprofits doing work all over the state, and a really special time for us. In our office, we like to say Idaho runs on nonprofits. So whether in whatever community you're in, that community likely runs and functions really well because of what nonprofits are doing, from healthcare to environmental conservation, delivering meals for seniors, arts and culture, you name it, nonprofits do it all.
I think one of the cool things about Idaho Gives is whatever you're passionate about, whatever your favorite cause is, there's likely something during Idaho Gives that connects with it. I guess a great place to start is, what is Idaho Gives?
Yeah, Idaho Gives is the state's largest multi-day giving event. So it's this is the 12th year. It's been going on for 11 years prior to this. It's raised $23.6 million over those previous 11 years. And it's really our opportunity to lift up the great work that nonprofits all over the state are doing. So we have 650 organizations participating this year, which is right on par with the last number of years, and everybody from large organizations like the Idaho Food Bank all the way down to all volunteer organizations in every corner of the state. Nearly every county is represented, and all types of mission areas. So it's just this celebration of all the great work that nonprofits are doing in the state, and our chance to lift them up and to introduce them to new donors, which is really key and really important for their missions.
And we're taking a look right now at the Idaho Gives site, and you can kind of just see some of the I guess partnerships and some of the groups that are there. And the Idaho Gives site, which we're navigating for you right now, you can click on these organizations, you can get an idea of what they're looking for. There's, I think, what, several hundred, or how many groups are part of this?
650 nonprofits are participating this year. So it's again the state's largest multi-day giving event. It's become a signature event for us at the Idaho Nonprofit Center, and really our job is to host this. It's to play convener, to play, get on the soapbox and say nonprofits are doing so much for Idaho. Go out and support the causes that you care about. We know there's tons of folks every year, thousands and thousands, that are moving to Idaho for the first time, and they're getting involved in their communities. So this is a great way to jump into that and find those causes that people care about, and give dollars, eventually give time, talent, and treasure. So it's an important week for nonprofits.
Something that I really appreciate with Idaho Gives, and I think the community does as well, it's not just like okay, you make your donation and you move on. It feels like a community event. There's incentives. When you donate, for example, if you go donate to a pet shelter, you'll say, hey, for $25, we're able to feed X amount of pets, or we're able to buy these supplies. You get this real tangible difference through that portal.
Yeah, you can see, a lot of those pages. Each organization sets up their own giving page, so they'll, some of them are raising money for a very specific short-term project that they're working on. It could be a bicycle drive, for example. Others are raising general operating support for their mission throughout the year. Some people have large goals up to 6 figures, like $100,000. Some people have modest goals of just raising a couple to $3,000. And on those pages, they do a good job, those organizations, of filling those out, giving an example of what those dollars do for their mission, and what a dollar amount can do as well, whether it's $10, which is the minimum donation, all the way up to, we have folks that might give $1,000 or more, and that's fantastic, as well as folks that are matching those donations on various pages. So those matches are represented, which leverages those dollars. So you can see on some of those pages, that they have a donor who's agreed to match the first $5,000 of gifts from the rest of the public. So it's just, it's a really great way to incentivize getting the whole community involved in giving.
You mentioned that word, incentives, because throughout the game of Idaho Gives, there's these special incentives in terms of, hey, we have bonuses for who gets the first donation and who gets, matches the most. Tell me a little bit about the game and the entertainment of it all.
Yeah, so we have a prize pool of over $35,000, and Idaho Nonprofit Center raises funds ahead of time to support that prize pool. So essentially, they're little mini grants, and there's prize pool awards for example, if a nonprofit that's participating gets 100% of their board to give during Idaho Gives, which is always a best practice. We really encourage, if you're serving on a board, to make sure you're giving what you can to that organization, so they can show, hey, 100% of our board gave, and now we are in that drawing for $1,000, for example. There's also a first gift prize, so the very first gift that comes in after 12 o'clock midnight on April 29th, that organization that gets that donation in the door first, and there'll be like a mad scramble for it, will win a prize. There's a prize for the farthest donation from Idaho, so someone's, a donor's mailing address could be in Southeast Asia or Australia or wherever, and there's a prize for that. So nonprofits that have friends across the globe that support causes in Idaho should get involved as well. So it's truly, that way, a global event as well.
And, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember tracking this event live, in years past here on KTVB. I mean, I remember one of the years we were following, $1 million in one drive.
Yeah. So this Idaho Gives has grown over these last 11 years. I mean, the first year we did it, I think just over $500,000 were raised. Now going back 12 years ago, and these last 4 years, really, we've just been right under that $4 million total raised amount. So we're really hoping to go over that milestone. Campaign-wide over these last 11 years, we've, like I said, raised $23.6 million. We'll definitely cross that $25 million lifetime raised this campaign, which is super exciting. I think that's a really fun milestone and something to be celebrated, not just for us, but for the whole sector, which is really what this is about. It's not about the Idaho Nonprofit Center. It's about the people that are on the ground doing that work in those communities, from taking care of animals to preserving trails to healthcare, childcare, all of those things that nonprofits do. And then, of course, their donors and their volunteers, which make those missions go.
And when you talk to some of these groups and these nonprofits that are beneficiaries of this great event, what type of an impact has it made for them in terms of, I guess, making things meet? Yeah,
so one example locally in the Treasure Valley, there's a childcare nonprofit called Giraffe Laugh, and they are a growing nonprofit. They've been trying to meet this childcare gap in our community, and they've had a waiting list as high as 200 kids, 300 kids, 400 kids, and they've been expanding their facilities. But one of the needs that they realized, because they serve kind of a low-income working population that needs childcare, and of course childcare is super expensive kind of on the open market, so they can subsidize that. So they've used Idaho Gives funds to open up food pantries in their childcare centers to serve those families that are low-wage, low to moderate income families. And not only are they providing a great service that allows those families to work, but then making sure that those children are fed, getting proper nutrition. So that's a great example. On the kind of outdoor recreation side, the Idaho Trails Association used their Idaho Gives campaign last year to open 15 miles of kind of wilderness trail that was totally overgrown in the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness area. So things like that just open up what makes Idaho a great place to live, right? And these nonprofits are key to that. And this campaign, it doesn't have to be the biggest fundraiser that they are doing for that year, but it opens up doors for their mission. It opens up those projects that they maybe had on the back burner. It pushes their mission forward in tangible ways.
I know that sometimes when we have charity events like this, we'll get the comment from people that say, look, I can only give $10 or $20. Is it even worth that? What would you say to people that say, I can only give so little, but I want to be a part of this?
Yeah, I like to think of giving as sort of a civic duty, sort of like voting, right? Some of us only have $10 to give at any given moment, and that's fine, but we participate in those causes. Everyone has a cause they care about. It could be animals, it could be children, it could be seniors, food insecurity, housing, you name it. But $10 matters, right? And then paying attention, once you donate. For example, my mom was last year, she's a recent transplant to the Boise area, public school teacher, retired, special ed, 40 years in the Minnesota public school system. So we convinced her to move out here, and she was getting involved in Idaho Gives, and she wanted to get involved with special education in some way, and she found this nonprofit called Game Changers Idaho that was bringing together kids with disabilities and kids that don't have disabilities on the same playing field for sports to teach empathy, to teach understanding, teamwork, social skills, skills, provide opportunities for kids that might not normally get that sports experience on a regular sports playing field. And she found it. She gave $10 one year, started following their newsletter. Pretty soon she was in their volunteer certification program, going through the training that was pretty extensive to become a volunteer for that program, and she kind of just fell in love with the mission. So that's sort of what Idaho Gives can do. It's that $10 that introduces you to the mission because you care about something. You start following that work, you get involved, you become a volunteer, maybe a staff person, maybe even in some cases you end up leading those organizations.
It's a great opportunity to really get invested with the cause you care about. And as we showed on the website, if you're not familiar with the dozens and dozens of nonprofits out there, you can click on categories and go through. You can find all kinds of exciting stuff. Okay, we have more to cover here on Idaho Gives, but we got to take a real quick break. We will be right back after this real quick commercial.
Working with California Closets was the only way to get exactly what I needed. It really makes my life better. I finally have my dream home, and I couldn't be more thrilled about it. I'm Erin, and this is my life with California Closets.
Visit a showroom or schedule your free consultation today.
Boise Music Week is pleased to announce 10 days of free music, dance, and theater events. 20 live Boise community performances, May 2nd through the 12th. For event details, go to boisemusicweek.org.
My Lowe's Rewards credit card saves us 5% on the things we need. 5% off, 5% off, 5% off.
And as loyalty members, we get points toward Milo's money for the things we want.
Oh, we want this.
The all-new Milo's Rewards loyalty program is here. Download the app to join, earn, and save today.
Bowman Funeral was started as a vision by a family to help families. Throughout the years, that vision has stayed the same. We offer high-quality services and arrangements in a family atmosphere, from a family to your family.
We've been here since 2004 with a goal in mind to offer families informed financial decisions and help them make an informed financial decision.
We invite you to stop by, call us, or visit us online.
We are Bowman Funeral.
NetCredit is here to say yes, even when other lenders won't. Apply online in minutes and get funds deposited the next business day or sooner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
I take caring for my kitty very seriously. When I found a health monitoring kitty litter, I had to meet the creator.
Oh, hi, kitten.
Please call me Martha. This litter seriously stops odors and it changes colors.
Go to prettylitter.com.
However you start your day.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the
We're here to help. Wake Up Idaho. Everything you need to start your day in the know. 5 to 7 on KTVB or all morning long on 24/7 and KTVB+.
Hey, welcome back to Viewpoint. Coming up this week, I should say tomorrow on Monday, Idaho Gives, it kicks off. And Kevin Bailey, CEO of the Idaho Nonprofit Center, joins us here on Viewpoint this week. And Kevin, as we jump back into the conversation, I know a big hallmark of Idaho Gives, the community events. What can we look forward to this week?
Yeah, we have a number of events going on, and these events are really community organized. One of our partners, Lost Grove Brewing, at the La Pointe, basically across from Boise State there, on Tuesday from 3:30 to 8, they're going to have a block party. There'll be a lot of nonprofits represented there. We encourage the public to come out and support and just learn about some of the nonprofits, have a bite to eat, something to drink while you're at it. And that whole business district and the Lusk district will be kind of open to the public, so it should be a really good community event. Thursday morning, also at Lost Grove, we'll be doing actually a live newscast with you all and celebrating. We'll have a ribbon cutting with the Boise Chamber, and the Boise mayor will be there, and we'll just celebrate. We'll have coffee and have a celebration from 8 to 9 at Lost Grove. I don't know if they've ever had anything happen in that space that early in the morning, so we're excited to see what that looks like at 8 in the morning. But and then there's events all over the state as well, so everywhere from McCall, Coeur d'Alene, Pocatello, Idaho Falls, and nonprofits in those communities are really putting those events together to raise awareness for the missions they have and draw some funds into it, of course. But you know, we've had a number of mayoral proclamations over the last week, and we'll continue to have those. So we just try to get everyone from local government to state government to the public involved in this, and really come out and support in whatever way makes most sense.
And it's really a great opportunity at these events to really meet the nonprofits and kind of learn more about the causes. I know that I've personally been to some of these events, and you watch these organizations organic conversations where people find out about nonprofits literally in their community that they've never heard of.
Yeah, a lot of these events, nonprofits will bring tables out and have something of demonstratable, value in front of folks. So I remember Idaho Trails Association had this big log, and you could take this 8-foot saw and kind of cut the log. It's like a 2-foot diameter, so it was, it takes all night to cut through it. Another nonprofit last year had a large golden eagle out, and people could kind of walk right up to it. These are massive birds. So yeah, we've seen it all, and it's a really great opportunity for folks from those nonprofits to share with the public just how important their missions are to the quality of life in Idaho and every community, which is, again, part of why we do this.
For you, as a CEO, as the leader of this team, why do you do this? Why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, I mean, for me, getting involved in nonprofits has always been a part of my career right after college. My first nonprofit job was overseas in Uganda, and that's where I kind of fell in love with it. Just this idea of building something that's community-based, that furthers community benefit in some way. To me, it was the kind of work that, there's nothing wrong with the corporate for-profit job, but I just needed to find something deeper and that was more meaningful to me. And so I've worked in nonprofits, education, mostly human service nonprofits, so nonprofits serving folks in poverty or in need in some way. And then this was an opportunity when I started 3 years ago at the Idaho Nonprofit Center to support the whole sector. So to support the arts organizations, the environmental organizations, the YMCAs, the Idaho food banks, you name it. So this has been it's a fun job. It's the best job in Idaho, I think.
As we take a look again at the live website, this will be able to, be accessed right after midnight on Monday, so coming up here in less than 24 hours. As you go through this Idaho Gives website, anything stick out to you? Anything that you think people at home should know about navigating this, or any questions that you guys get commonly?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is at the top of the page, there's a search bar, and you can, if you know the organization you're looking for, you just type that in, or even part of the name of the organization. But if you're wanting to search by region or county or by cause, you can drop down those menus and search by cause, and that's a really great way. Hey, if you're looking for an organization working on food insecurity, you can pop that in and see all the great groups across the state that are doing that. And organizations are cross-listed as well, so someone that's in food insecurity might also be in childcare, serving areas. So it's again, finding those causes that you care about, get involved, give time, talent, and treasure. Idaho Gives is about giving whatever piece of that treasure that folks have, whether it's $10 or $1,000. Every little bit makes a difference to these 650 nonprofits.
Kevin Bailey, CEO of the Idaho Nonprofit Center, joining us here this morning. Again, Idaho Gives kicks off Monday at midnight. Anything else, before we go real quickly?
Just idahogives.org and give what you can.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much again for everyone that does the great work behind the scenes at Idaho Gives. Thank you to you and your team. We will be right back after this break. We're taking a look at Idaho's big day at the United States Supreme Court.
Lowe's knows you can take on more spring projects with more SpringFest deals. Shop our best deals store-wide to refresh your home in more ways, inside and out. And with the MyLowe's Rewards credit card, you can save 5% every day. Shop SpringFest deals now at Lowe's.
Over 13 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2022. And the threats go way beyond just credit card fraud. Today's identity thieves can open loans, transfer home titles, and even commit crimes in your name.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and was used for criminal activity.
Your information is exposed through online shopping, banking, even corporate data breaches. No wonder there's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats all in one place.
I clicked, "That's not me," and LifeLock took it from there.
If you become a victim, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix the issue. All LifeLock members are backed by the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds.
I will be with LifeLock forever.
Enrollment takes just minutes. Call now or go online and use promo code GET25 to save 25% on your first year. Enroll now.
Make your first move with battery power made by Steel. Right now, save $50 on select steel battery trimmers. Real steel. Find yours.
NetCredit is here to say yes, even when other lenders won't. Apply online in minutes and get funds deposited the next business day or sooner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
All right, this week, the United States Supreme Court justices heard oral arguments about Idaho's near-total abortion ban in the United States versus Idaho and Moyle, two consolidated cases where the Department of Justice claims that Idaho's abortion law, with exceptions only for rape, incest, and the life of the mother, it violates the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. So here's a little bit of a recap of how we got to where we are this week at the Supreme Court. Back in 2020, the state of Idaho passed a trigger law, Senate Bill 1385, which said if the United States Supreme Court ever overturned Roe v. Wade, Idaho would make abortion a crime. And that started to happen in June of 2022. So performing an abortion is a felony for doctors in Idaho, punishable with up to 5 years in prison and a permanent loss of license for more than one offense. Idaho's law was triggered and then went into effect later in 2022 in the month of August. Immediately at that point, President Joe Biden's Department of Justice, they filed a lawsuit because they believe that Idaho's law conflicted with federal EMTALA rules. And again, EMTALA, the federal law, Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act. The argument is that the federal law requires doctors to stabilize or treat any patient who shows up at an emergency room, and that includes doing an abortion if needed. The Department of Justice argues that Idaho's law doesn't allow for that, for pregnant women that need an abortion. They say a patient should not be denied care because they aren't dying yet. A federal judge immediately put an injunction in place, and about a year later, that injunction was suspended by a 3-judge panel on the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals. They said Idaho could enforce all of its abortion ban, even emergency care, while the lawsuit worked its way through the courts, which is what it's basically doing now. Back in January, the Supreme Court, they agreed to hear arguments in the United States versus Idaho, and this week, Idaho's big day at the Supreme Court. So, Idaho legal counsel defended the state's law. The Department of Justice, they challenged it. State of Idaho, they argue that the law is clean and constitutional and should be allowed to be fully in place. State of Idaho argues that there is an exception in Idaho law for an abortion if it is necessary to save the life of a pregnant woman. Now, critics say that doctors do not have a clear answer on that to take action according to the law. They say there's gray area. And we heard from major Idaho players from both sides of the courtroom on the topic just following the arguments this past week. The two sides could not be more diametrically opposed. Center stage at the United States Supreme Court, Idaho's laws on abortion, specifically arguments over the interaction between EMTALA and state law in emergency situations. Idaho Attorney General Raul Labrador was at the Supreme Court today. He spoke shortly after arguments ended about the interaction between EMTALA and Idaho law.
EMTALA says nothing about abortion. In fact, EMTALA requires that emergency rooms care for pregnant women and their unborn children. And under Idaho's law, doctors are expected to treat women facing life-threatening situations, as well as women experiencing ectopic pregnancies and miscarriages.
Idaho is in the House!
Idaho minority leaders, Representative Alana Rubel and Senator Melissa Wintrow, traveled to D.C. to speak out on the issue. They believe it is important that both sides from Idaho share perspective. They say the reality is that doctors are leaving Idaho because of this conflict.
It is awkward to come to terms with the fact that the law that they championed has caused complete disaster to the state of Idaho, and it's much more convenient for them to just say, oh, la, 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 this isn't happening, nobody else is telling the truth. But facts are facts, numbers are numbers, and they can only run from it so far.
Supreme Court justices listened to extended arguments from each side. They will rule on the interaction of EMTALA and Idaho law later this year. But for now, a major debate centers on the story that Idaho women are being airlifted out of the state for care. Just this week, we heard from Dr. Jim Souza, the chief medical officer for St. Luke's Health.
So we've had 6 just in the first trimester, ironically, of this year. Since January, the first 4 months of this year, we've had 6 versus 1 in all of 2023. If I annualize it, I tell myself we'll be at somewhere between 15 and 20 by the end of the year.
Standing in the shadow of the Supreme Court, AG Labrador was asked about that exact stat.
What's telling is that they never said that under oath. Once again, all the examples that they're using under oath are examples that are covered by Idaho law, but they're going to the press and they're making all these statements that are clearly misinformation, in my opinion. In fact, I have talked to doctors in the ER, the same ER rooms that they're talking about, and they are telling me that they have no idea what this administrator is talking about.
I believe the doctors, and they would not be making that up. The medical director, I think it was St. Luke's that said that. He's not going to make that up.
I know some of these doctors. They're not making this up. I know the doctors that are leaving the state and that are saying, these are not invented stories. And the notion that, every doctor in the state is lying, every hospital in the state is lying, you should just believe us, there's no problem, is not a credible position for them to take. It is pure gaslighting and nothing but. And I understand this is an inconvenient truth for them.
So I have asked emergency room doctors what this is all about, because I want to be informed about what's happening in Idaho. And they're saying that they don't know what this is about. So I would like to get some more information on this. In my opinion, if somebody's being transferred out of the state of Idaho whose life is in jeopardy, that actually doesn't conform with their practice and the things that they're supposed to be as doctors. So I would hate to think that St. Luke's or any other hospital is trying to do something like this just to make a political statement.
Labrador argues that Idaho's law is clear with the exception. Rubel and Wintro say they've heard firsthand that it's not clear and that because of it, there are major consequences.
If it could lead to jeopardy of the life of the mother, there's no immediacy in our law. It just says that it could lead to the death of a mother, then our law allows abortion in those cases.
You're hearing the things they're saying, not believing doctors, physicians aren't leaving, and that's just not true. This is basic counting, right? We can count the number of doctors who've left our state. We can talk to medical facilities that cannot recruit a physician into our state.
So the Supreme Court heard arguments this past week. To be very clear, they are not going to make a decision until later this year, likely in the summertime, think June or July. We will keep you posted, of course, on all of that. We also did hear from a lot of Idaho players on this topic. So for comprehensive coverage of Idaho's big day at the Supreme Court, talking about Idaho's abortion ban and abortion laws, you can find that all on our website right now at ktvb.com. Okay, well, that's about all the time we have for Viewpoint this week. Again, I wanted to thank our guest and get everybody ready for Idaho Gives. Idaho Gives will kick off at midnight Monday night. And of course, the first donation that goes in there, the group that gets the first donation for Idaho Gives, they will get a very special bonus. Again, if you're looking to connect with Idaho Gives, easiest way to do that is idahogives.org. If there's something that you're passionate about, there is likely a nonprofit in your community working alongside your values. That's all the time we have for Viewpoint. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.